Hey everyone, I'm Debbie Rapson, and I'm here with Rachel Johnson to talk about go-to-market messaging workshops. We are go-to-market strategists who work together with startups to help them drive revenue and get quick time to value in their Rachel and I have collaborated with early stage founders who have a great idea but aren't necessarily equipped or have the background to execute. Work together with founders, bringing the marketing and the sales expertise to help them launch their go-to-market messaging strategy. Rachel's gonna share a little bit more about how we do it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Deb. We're going to talk about our messaging workshop. Our messaging workshop is a proprietary framework that we created that takes the obviously awesome framework and creates it into a format that is for early stage founders. And what is great about it is it allows early stage founders to have a deliverable that they can use out of that workshop. And I'm going to walk you through some of the sections that we go over in this workshop. We help founders that come up with a one-liner. So this is the one-liner that when somebody asks you what you do at a cocktail party, this is what you say. A lot of early stage founders have different connotations as to what this is. We help them define what their competitive alternatives are, their unique attributes of their product or service, and then value points. Additionally, we help them come up with their elevator pitch and 100-word descriptions. Really, where the meat of this workshop comes into play is developing their ICP. And we find that this is really challenging for some early stage founders because they want to have their product or service be applicable for everybody. This workshop helps them to hone in on the ICP that's focused around who their product or service can help best. We help them focus around 3 ICPs, and we help them define their target segments and understand the use cases that are associated, as well as their buyer personas, the characteristics that particular buyer persona has, particular titles that they would focus on. And then we help them develop value themes and features of their product or service that are applicable for those value themes. We help identify their benefit or pain points. If they have any social proof, for example, if they have quotes or customers that they have already captured that are willing to speak about the product. And what comes out of that is a website headline and a subhead, as well as their 3 main value pillars and CTAs. And we find that this framework is really helpful for early stage founders to have an actual deliverable that comes out of these workshops.
What are the biggest challenges that you feel are in front of those founders when we do it?
That's a great question, Debbie. I think that it's understanding who their ICP is and aligning those use cases. And in one of the recent workshops we did, it was interesting to go through the different clients that they currently had and dissect what are those verticals that they're currently servicing, and then go after the ICP work according to the verticals that they're currently servicing. And I also really appreciate the messaging strategy and the sales perspective as well. So the boots on the ground, what's currently working, what messaging is currently working with those verticals. It's the founder-led sales model is currently selling out in the marketplace, and they've probably sold a few deals into some of those verticals, and they can provide us feedback to say, hey, this works with this vertical, or this doesn't work with this vertical. So I think that that's one of the biggest challenges is aligning messaging with the right ICP. So Debbie, when we do workshops, who should be involved in those workshops?
Well, absolutely. The CEO or founder should be involved because this is their child and they have the best perspective from their vision. But then also early employees with really deep product knowledge, technical knowledge should also be involved to make sure that we are appealing to the technical buyers and making sure that we are highlighting the right features and the right messaging around the product. Marketing, of course, strategic marketing and sales leadership should be involved from a field perspective and also the outcome perspective on what this is going to look like in all the various avenues to help bring that vision to life. And then I definitely recommend keeping the group small, making sure that we drive alignment with the team and just build that momentum and keep it going around the workshopping from beginning to end, from the discovery discovery sessions and the conversation, to building out all the pieces around that messaging, the value pieces, the ICP, the problem and friction. But then also, as we're bringing things to life, making sure that we're checking back with everyone to make sure that we still do have alignment and things are resonating.
I agree with you on the size. If run workshops where they've been a much larger group, and I feel like those workshops move slower. If you can have your group be your most essential people in the room, as well as the facilitator. And then you have some of your early employees, whether that's from the go-to-market side, your CTO, obviously your founder. In addition to that, board members are also, if they're really close to and active with the business. We've done a couple of these together, and I always get these questions from founders. How long should I expect this workshop to last?
That's a great question. And typically, depending upon how you break it out into a couple of days, half day sessions, or whether you break it out into 90-minute sessions, like we recently did with one of our
Yeah.
clients, it can take a 2 to 3 week time frame to iterate and hone in, have the discussion that's needed, be succinct in thoughts and keep things moving. So I would say the 2 to 3 week time period. And then of course, all the output to execute takes longer.
I would say the hardest thing is aligning schedules with everyone. It seems to be, the calendar
Always.
gymnastics is always the hardest part. But keeping those 90-minute sessions, I feel like it keeps everyone focused on what they're doing. When I'm leading those sessions, I ask for everyone to be engaged and focused. And if you have Slack or email, I ask that people, close those tabs and really focus in, especially if we're remote, focus in on the workshop that we're doing. Obviously, if you're
Yeah.
pulling documentation, that could be open, but really focusing on the work that we're doing together allows those 90 minutes to be really fruitful. And I find it to be 4 to 6, 4 to 7 sessions, depending on if we're starting from scratch. With some early stage founders, they don't have any of this already. If they have some of these bases before, then we're able to build upon those, and it sometimes takes less sessions.
When to do these sessions, when to run the workshop. Typically, what we've done in the past is really jumped in at the start of an engagement. So a company is early on, they have a website, their messaging is maybe a little bit soft because they're beginning to figure it out. That is a great time at the start of an engagement with a client to run this kind of workshop. And it's so fruitful, from everything in their marketing to their sales materials, whether it's founder led or whether they're hiring those reps. It is absolutely an early stage activity running these workshops. It really can be the biggest difference in the outcome or the ramp of the go-to-market motion. The founder has done your research on developing the company value proposition. You've talked to your network and done a lot of the discovery around the premise of this is the solution we want to bring to market. We want to understand the pain. We want to understand the value that we're going to bring. We want to identify that need. But the workshopping of that go-to-market messaging, that's not doing that is really a big risk for you missing the mark and accelerating your go-to-market motion, which I know all the founders out there want to do as quickly as possible. So thinking about your website, your content. Right now, you might be the sales team, but you soon will want to bring on one or two sales. Everything needs to have the same messaging. The website, the content, the sales team all need to have that same clear, compelling story. And as a founder, people are buying from you because they trust you. You're selling to your network in the beginning. But when you bring on a salesperson or two, a solid go-to-market message is going to help ensure that they ramp up fast and effectively.
I think you beautifully described how this workshop can appeal to a startup. This workshop can also appeal to other companies at different stages as well. It can appeal to companies that are more established, that are in growth mode. It can appeal to companies that are moving up or down market or going after different industry segments. So for example, companies that are more established, I've found that these workshops can be applicable for when they are needing to take a look at their messaging. Sometimes I'm brought in when companies aren't meeting goals, when they're looking at lead generation, they're bringing in the top of funnel leads, but they're just not converting correctly. And sometimes I find that it's the messaging is not resonating with their ICP. That's really the challenge. And it's not actually the amount of leads that we're bringing in or the quality of leads. We're just bringing in the wrong leads. And so if we do a messaging exercise like this, then we get to the root of the problem faster. What have you found in more established companies when you start an engagement with a type of workshop like this?
It's really interesting. There are a couple of key things that typically bubble up, and one is always around ICP. Very often in the beginning of an organization being built, that founder is going after people in their network, whether their network is large enterprise companies or whether their network is more mid-market. And one of the things I find at that next stage at scale ups and companies that are more in that mid-market is really a honing in on things like their ICP, a honing in on where the real friction points are. So it's getting into kind of the course correct and the refining mode in those mid-stage companies. We thought it was this, but we actually see we can sell more with this ICP, or our product has matured and it's time to do that refinement. I mean, those are some of the biggest kind of aha moments. And then the challenges are just in ensuring that we have the right representation sitting around the table, because typically at the later stage, we might be focusing more on how can we expand our customer base, expand our footprint inside the customer? How can we better retain where we're turning over customers? So what's our go-to-market messaging for the long term around things like return on investment or expansion opportunities? How do we take a client from A to B so that they can realize the value that they're looking for in their business?
Absolutely, Debbie. I think that when you're moving especially when you're moving up market, that's absolutely the case. And customers, the sales cycle gets more complex, and you have to have more people in your buying group. And a lot of times, a single early stage founder who it's a founder-led sales model it's not the same way that he or she may sell. I think one of the most interesting ways that I've seen this workshop be used is when a company is looking to expand into industry segments. And I know I've run a couple of workshops where we've used a concept of tiger teams, where we've run this workshop on an industry that we are really well suited for, and we're experimenting on industries that we would potentially like to go into. And so we'll do this workshop at a level that allows us to execute really quickly on deliverables. And then we'll set up a tiger team where it includes a demand gen marketer and a account executive and a BDR. And we'll create one key pillar marketing campaign that involves a piece of content, some demo questions for that and we'll push that group out into the wild with this new messaging strategy, and we'll run a test. And this was when I was the VP of marketing at a company, this was one of my key accomplishments with hand in hand with our sales leader. And we were able to open up 7 different market segments using this strategy. And I think that the core pillar of our strategy was really starting with a messaging workshop that aligned our ICP with the core message that resonated. We used the same strategy to understand and test all of the market segments. And so we were going after the market segments that were most successful and most applicable for our business.
Absolutely. Expanding market segments is a great use case for bringing the team back together for a go-to-market messaging workshop. Another awesome one that has been really successful in my past has been expanding into different geographies like
Mm.
Asia Pac or expanding into EMEA. Same exact concept. Is this messaging going to work in those markets? And going in with that Tiger team, it has worked beautifully in the past to very quickly suss out, is this a messaging? Are the challenges the same? And does it resonate in this particular geography?
Awesome. Those are great insights. Debbie, I really appreciate you joining me and